Hello, good evening, and a very happy new year to all of you. I hope you all had an amazing Christmas. Mine was very, very busy, hence why I haven't been able to come on and address some of the issues that I said we were going to talk about. However, I'm here now. Now, I wanted to touch on a few subjects this evening, mainly to do with Reform UK. But also GB News as well, and the claims that we have now from the independent or so-called independent journalists and even political parties that claim they are brave enough to talk about some topics that others won't or refuse to comment on or even condemn, if you're talking about the Labour Party or any people on the far left, such as grooming gangs, the rape scandal, you name it. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We got immigration, the list is endless. I can't even begin to start reeling off what we can moan about in regards to society, but also the economy, and yeah. But let's focus on these claims that GB News, Reform UK, and others like them, and Talk TV, they claim that they are not afraid to talk about the topics that are controversial or you would normally get labelled or slandered or slammed for talking about. So let's do Reform UK first. As someone who went to the Reform Conference Party, promoted them, and as someone who belongs to the Unite the Kingdom movement, I am quite confused, but also stuck. I don't know where I stand, because I'm with both, let's say, parties, or on both sides of the coin in regards to these. And you would think, or you could imagine, that in America you wouldn't have this confusion going on right now. And what's causing this confusion is the leadership of the Reform UK party, namely Richard Tice, Nigel Farage, Lee Anderson. Although Lee Anderson may not be one of the leaders of Reform UK, he is certainly a key member that everyone knows. In my eyes, from what I can see in regards to Reform UK, what it's becoming and what it had set out to do is completely far different things. Two different things. Reform UK at first seemed like they were going to be the answer. They were going to be the political solution to the problems that we're facing in the UK. The main problems, such as immigration, the grooming gangs, the fact that our identity and our culture is being completely ridiculed and deleted, if you like, from society. And we're also teaching children, I mean, in the education system is absolutely corrupt, like you wouldn't believe. We're teaching children that our historical leaders that seen us through World War II, like Winston Churchill, that they're bad people. We've seen the tearing down of statues, the changing names of streets. I mean, you can't begin to name or list the amount of things that the political left have tried to ruin or have ruined because of their fixated ideology on wokeism. Now, Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson, you would think, have the same ideology, same political views, same stances. Maybe Tommy's a bit more radical. Maybe Tommy speaks from the heart and from the two testicles that sit directly under his stomach between his legs. But Nigel Farage is able, because of his background, to speak in a more, let's say, politer and comfortable way. Nigel doesn't want to upset the political left. He is also scared of mass media and being scrutinised by them. And I don't know what he thinks he is going to gain. And many people have spoken about this. I won't be one that is going to break the headlines about this. We all know, I think Nigel knows himself, that he is acting in a way which is beginning to confuse a lot of Reform UK voters. And when I say Reform UK voters, you would think, I mean, the political left label us as a far-right party or organisation, which is completely not true. The actual, let's say, foundation of the Reform UK party now, with its members and voters, are those who were either Tory voters, Labour voters, and from my experience, even a few Liberal Democrat voters. I know you wouldn't believe it, but it's true, and those who would vote for Reform UK would know that what I'm saying is completely true. It's a hell of a mix, because Reform UK is not a far-right party. It does cover some other parts of society that Labour, the Tories and the Lib Dems don't want to sort out, especially in regards to the NHS. We didn't, any Tory voter wouldn't like the idea of a privatisation of the NHS. In fact, most people in the UK hate the idea of that. However, Reform UK, although they claim it's not privatising or wouldn't want to privatise, would use some element of privatisation to fix the NHS, which I have no problem with, because at the end of the day, any help the NHS can get right now that is going to help me, you, or anyone else, they can deal with. They need it. They need it now. They needed it years ago. And sadly, people are losing their lives on a daily basis because of how poor the NHS is. And what they're delivering is nothing short of probably what a third world country could deliver to its citizens. Anyway, that's the NHS. But in terms of Nigel Farage being, or let's say, distancing himself from Tommy Robinson, I think this is the most stupidest move that you could possibly make, and it's going to backfire on him. In fact, if it hasn't already, it will very shortly. I don't know if any of you watched the conference last night. I did. I didn't see the bit with Lee Anderson, but I caught up after. But I seen the videos circulating YouTube afterwards in regards to two Tommy Robinson followers calling out to Lee Anderson saying, listen to Tommy. And they're right. They are right. And Lee Anderson, for a moment, offered the person who heckled him to come to the stage and speak. He said, do you want to speak? Do you want to come up here and speak? If that opportunity was handed to me, I would have took that with open arms. I would have been straight up there, and the first thing I would have hit home, if you like, would be this rift between Tommy and the Reform UK. Now, I'm sure most of you know, who are friends or watchers of Paul Thorpe and other commentators like those, that Reform UK used Tommy at the last election. They asked Tommy directly if he would appeal to his followers and get them on board to vote for Reform UK. Get them to vote. And let's remember, if any of you attended the June the 1st rally, United the Kingdom rally, the first one in Parliament Square, like I did, you would remember and recall that Tommy told absolutely everybody on the microphone on stage not to vote and to tick none of the above on the ballot papers. But shortly after Reform UK seen, Tommy had a movement, a cultural movement growing within the UK. People were waking up. And this was the rally that had the smallest amount of people there. This wasn't Trafalgar Square. This wasn't the last one that taken place at Whitehall. This was the Parliament Square one. Maybe between 35 to 50,000 people were there. It was a great day. And it was probably the first, let's say, sense that the country is not dead yet, and that we still have some fight left in us, and people are beginning to wake up to the nonsense taking place. Now then, with that in mind, they approached Tommy. They took the risk. They approached Tommy Robinson, told him to get his followers on board to Reform UK, and advised them to vote for him, even after he had already told everyone to tick none of the above. Now that's making someone do a complete 180-degree turn. Tommy sacrificed the fact that we all know Tommy stands by what he says. He doesn't change his mind or opinion. And that's what we need when we look at leaders. We need someone who will stand by what they say and not change like we've seen with the other parties or leaders that we've had in the past. Now, Tommy did a U-turn from ticking none of the above and helped Reform UK, and was one of the reasons why I voted Reform UK. And then I come along because Tommy advised, and obviously because of political reasons, I went along to the conferences. I donated to Reform UK. I did a lot of commentary on Reform UK, even loads of videos regarding it before my old channel got deleted and taken down. But then they threw him under the bus. Richard Tice didn't go as soft neither. In fact, he went even further by throwing not just Tommy under the bus, but those who attend the Uniting the Kingdom rallies under the bus with him, labelling us as those lot. We don't want nothing to do with those lot. And of course, if you are one of those lot, they don't want you as a member, they don't want you as a voter or a supporter. Which is odd, because if you're a brand new party starting off in an election, you wouldn't care who voted for you. You would only care about getting your foot through that front door. Now, I'm being honest with you now. I'm not keen on Reform UK anymore. I'm not. Of course, they're the only option available, or at the table, if you like, which you can go for. It's like having a menu, and nothing on the menu is there that you like, and you're on a diet, but then your favourite fast food's on there, and you're on a diet, and you know that you're about to have a heart attack if you continue eating fast food. But because you're so hungry, you'll end up picking that naughty thing on there because it's the only thing that you'd actually enjoy eating. That is what Reform UK is like to many people across the country right now, because of the division and the relationship, if there is one, between Reform UK, Tommy Robinson, but also the Uniting the Kingdom supporters. Because let's face it, most of the people who follow Tommy support Reform UK, and vice versa. And last night's antics with Lee Anderson and Nigel Farage after, especially when they got interviewed by GB News, has completely destroyed what was going good for Reform UK. And if they continue, if Nigel Farage and his cronies, if you like, continue to slam Tommy and slam his supporters, like myself, they are going to lose a significant amount of support. Now, I'm telling you now, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me on this, if UKIP was as big as Reform UK right now, and just starting out in the political atmosphere, if you like, then you would see everyone move and switch boats. UKIP is basically Reform UK, I believe, anyway. However, it has a bit more Christianity involved in it, which is what we need, because even if you're not Christian, it's the Christian values and principles and traditions that make up our identity as British people and as a British culture. So we need those in place. Even if you don't want to follow it, we need a strong-based Christianity in the UK. That doesn't mean force-feeding it down people's necks. However, it means that we stand by what we believe and we're not willing to change it to any other ideology, such as Islam or communism or anything like that. We will never be a theocracy again, and we hope to stand to be a democracy. But we need to instill and preserve those Christian teachings, values and principles. Now, UKIP are heavy on this, and this is why I love UKIP. They can see where reform can't. They can see that there are voters out there that follow Tommy, that even vote for reform or follow reform, that get this. They know, they're not stupid. Without some kind of heavy footstone, if you like, or cornerstone here in our culture or society, we will fall inevitably. Now, this cornerstone has been for Britain, Christianity, for centuries. And it is why we are so great as we are today. And it's why we are as peaceful as we are today and successful as we are today. You look at most Christian countries across the world, and they're democratic, they're peaceful, they're successful. And you look at some of the Islamic states, apart from Dubai and other places like that, which are only just sorting themselves out, but they're in a lot of debt. You would see the same thing. You'll see a lot of peace, and you won't see much, let's say, I don't know, corruption. I mean, there is a corruption with every country that you get, but you're not going to see the likes of people being beheaded or abuses against freedoms, such as what we're seeing today in the UK and other places across the Middle East. Now, I want Nigel. Nothing would please me more, and I don't think this will happen, but my plea, and I'm sure this is the same as everyone else's, my plea to Nigel Farage and Reform UK as a whole would be, you do the 180 turn. You do the same 180 turn that Tommy did back around June last year, where he told everyone not to vote for anyone and then told everyone to vote for you. You should now say, do you know what? We're going to be completely honest. And this is how they can do this without getting a lot of hate for it. Well, especially from us, the supporters and voters. We are sorry that we had said, or felt like we had to say, the things we did in the light or regards of Tommy Robinson and the United Kingdom movement. We are under a lot of political pressure. We are under the spotlight and limelight of so many people that will censor us and make our political campaign a complete misery and possibly a failure if we are to promote or continue talking about, on a large scale, the likes of Tommy and his followers. However, we have realised now, after looking into some of the people that follow Tommy, looking into the movement a bit closer, we have realised now that you have the same values, opinions and political beliefs as we do as a party. And in fact, we were wrong about Tommy Robinson. Although he has made many mistakes in the past, everyone has a right to a second chance. We want to give Tommy that second chance and apologise to him for the comments we have made. However, we do want to say we are not going to involve Tommy Robinson with our political movement as an MP or anything like that politically, but we do hold him in high regard for the extremely hard work he has put into making, I don't know, the grooming gangs come to light across the UK, the documentaries he has made, and also the work he has done uniting the people of Britain to come and follow our movement, but also want to save and fight for what we have left in the UK. That would be enough. That is, it might have sounded like it went on because it's coming from me and my boring tone, but that is what they need to do. And if they'd done that, and I think this is where they're getting it wrong, they're believing if they did something like that, it would backfire on them, but it would do the complete opposite. When I watched that conference last night, all I seen in the live chat, free Tommy, free Tommy, free Tommy, free all the political prisoners, why don't you listen to Tommy, stop throwing us under the bus. That's all I seen, and that's all I was thinking at the same time. And I can't for the life of me imagine, just imagine the US election that has just gone past and Elon Musk was slamming Donald Trump. Just imagine it. Now, everyone was on board with Elon, everyone was on board with Trump. There was unity there on the right side of politics. But unfortunately, if the way things keep going the way they are, Reform are going to lose a significant amount of voters. And let's not just stop at that neither. Nigel, you made also bigger mistakes than Tommy when you were questioned about mass deportation and also Islamism here in the UK. We are finding here in the UK that nothing resembles Britain any longer. And you didn't just stop there, Nigel. You also went on to talk about getting the Muslim voters on board. And this is where I wholeheartedly believe, or is the reason that I wholeheartedly believe, that Nigel is not willing to support Tommy because of Tommy's views on Islamism and the grooming gangs and Islam as a whole here in the UK. I've been very vocal about Islam and the West, as you all know. There is, of course, and I will always say this, good, decent, law-abiding Muslims here in the UK. But there is no such thing as good Islam. If you go to remove a tumour from someone who has cancer, you don't just remove the bad part that's cancerous. You remove the whole tumour, okay? And unless anyone in the political sphere realises this, we will never get the country back. It will never be the same again. In fact, it will deteriorate. It might seem better for a few years with a few deportations that Nigel will do. But this whole idea of just thinking that he can persuade Muslims to become British patriots, to me, seems insane. Now, of course, you'll get a couple. You got Zia Youssef, for instance, which is probably one of the reasons Nigel believes this, because his chairman is, of course, a patriot, or at least acts like one. In my opinion, Zia could be just as a patriot as the guy, or an anti-Islamist, if you like, as the guy at the Christmas markets in Germany that we've just seen. Taqiyya and forms of deceivement and lying is not hidden, if you like, in Islam. They talk about it openly. And those who study Islam and theology and anything to do with religion will know this. So you don't know whether you are coming or going. And there's no point risking our complete identity, the complete country of ours, for the sake of just being tolerant. We've been too tolerant, and it has got us into the mess we are in now. It seems that Islam will never be an ideology that will be able to fit into Western culture. And if that is a problem to those in the UK, and you want to follow Islam, then go follow it in an Islamic country. And you might say, oh, you're a racist for saying that, you're a bigot, you shouldn't say things like that. But at the end of the day, I don't think people in Britain want this ideology here any longer. They don't. And this is what UKIP are getting, but I've never heard Nick Tenconi speak about this like as open as I am. And again, this is the fear of the mass media spectrum coming after you, the political spectrum coming after you, being censored, silenced, labelled, when in fact, what you'll find is the complete opposite. If we find someone that can talk about this more openly, more bravely, without fear of any kind of threats, intimidation or censorship, that person is going to get a lot of backing. And something tells me that the Tories may pick up on this, and you will disagree at the moment, but the Tories have, without them knowing at the moment, a secret weapon they can use at any point. And that weapon goes by the name of Tommy Robinson. If Reform continue doing what they are doing, the Conservatives could quite easily and openly promote and come on board with the Uniting the Kingdom movement. Now, for me, the Tories are done. I don't want anything to do with them ever again. In fact, I never have been a staunch Tory voter. However, if it was just them or Labour, they would have to get my vote. But they are a uni party now, or as that idiot says, I can't remember his name now. Is it George or something? They're two sides of the same ass. So, for me, they wouldn't get my vote. However, if they picked up Tommy as a weapon and used it against Reform and said, look, we've got the brass to do what Reform won't. We've grew a pair now, we've had a look at ourselves, we've made some drastic changes, we've listened to you, the British people, and we know that those of our old supporters that have gone to Reform want this. So we're going to give them it. Here we are. We fully back and we promote those who share the same values and principles as those who attend the United the Kingdom rallies. And we'd also like to say thank you to Tommy Robinson for all the hard work he has done in gathering these people together, but also for highlighting the issues that are going on in the UK. And we believe if it wasn't for his work, none of this would have been brought to light. If they did that, they wouldn't just get all their voters back, but they would also generate a lot more. Now, will they be brave enough to do it? Probably not. But that is something that is there. It is a way, if you like, they could come back. Make a very good comeback, that would. Anyway, GB News. We spoke about Reform. They ain't going to do well or get into Parliament unless they change their viewpoint on Tommy or his voters. That's it. Like it or lump it. GB News. GB News is the only radio station I'll listen to. And again, it's not because it's by my preference or, well, it is, but it's not because I really love GB News and have done forever. It's because, again, they are the only organisation that I can resonate with, that I can understand. But again, they claim that they will talk about things nobody is willing to talk about. And even if they were willing to talk about Tommy in a bad way, that to me would be far much better than what they are doing now, where they are completely ignoring anything coming from that area. And they are also, when they do talk about it, they'll only talk about it because they feel like everyone already knows about a story something to do with him anyway, because maybe the political left or other news resources have spoke about it. That's why they'll address some things, like what you've seen at the Reform Conference. They were there. What got shouted at Lee Anderson was, too much common knowledge for GB News not to speak about it. So of course they felt like they had to. Would they have done if that conference wasn't televised or many people weren't there? No. So this is the same thing. So sorry, bear with me. Ideally, there is really no independent freedom. I think the only independent news source that you could fully trust right now would be Mayor Toosey and people like Mayor who are willing to talk about these things openly. And it's people like Mayor who we need as leaders. If it was up to me, I would have servicemen only that could serve in our parliament. You could only be a member of parliament or in the government if you had served at least, 5 to 10 years in our uniformed services. That's how I would have it. I think at least that way you're going to get more patriotic people and that love the country. Sorry, my dog's on a mission to try and kill himself in the middle of the road. Extendable leads and whatnot. But anyway, that's how government used to be, believe it or not. Most people, there wasn't an actual law or, a piece of legislation which said that you had to be ex-servicemen, but most people that were in government were ex-servicemen, and this is when our country excelled. This is where the identity of Britain came from, and it was promoted heavily. We're seeing the complete opposite now, and the way it's going, people are leaving in numbers at the moment. You've got the Jews leaving because of anti-Semitism. You've got the rich people leaving because of the economy. You've got some people leaving because they are simply sick to death of the education system and what they're teaching our children. It's disgusting. And then if you keep your children away from it, they come after you. But anyway, that's my little rant over. I hope you're all well. I really wanted to cover this because it has wound me up a lot over the past few months with Reform's attitude towards Tommy Robinson and those who are followers of him, like myself. Because we're not bad people. They make us out to be bad people. We're not bad people. We are people who no longer, have never tolerated, but we are people who have had enough of the grooming gangs in our country. We are people who have had enough of our kids being told that a man can turn into a woman and vice versa. We have had enough of the left wokeism that is going on across all of our establishments and organisations, including our health service, that are now promoting chest feeding as of breastfeeding because it is sexist apparently, or transphobic if you like, to say breastfeeding. People have had enough. We are people that have had enough of being labelled racists when we're not. You'll find people of all colours, of all ideologies, attend these rallies that we go to and put our hard work into. We have had enough of being slammed by people who don't understand us. We have had enough of not being listened to, being labelled as far right. We have simply had enough of our identity, our culture and our way of life be trampled on and almost replaced by communism, parted alongside of Islamism. That is what we have had enough of. And we want things to go back to the way they used to be. The Britain that we once loved, the Britain that once ruled the waves. Guys, thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you're all well. I will be back soon, and I'll look forward to seeing you all and having a full-on conversation in the future and getting people on board to do some interviews and podcasts. Right now I'm going to head back in this rainy weather with my unaliving himself dog. I can't say the S word because of YouTube. Again, censorship. But yeah, farewell guys, Happy New Year, God bless you all.